Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk got the internet gremlins and the tube demons working on that over there, but should be up there shortly, where you, of course, again, comment throughout the program. One of the reasons we mentioned that, but also see what we got going on, and of course, see some of the guests and interviews that we got coming up for you today. A lot to delve into today. Just a few things, just because I don't think the announcement post went out. We'll definitely elaborate on it here. That some allegations of the district attorney's office involvement in some way or another with a mysterious email or set of emails, really, that have been going on involving the August 3rd Walmart shooting case. We've mentioned it a couple of times, these strange emails that were percolating through a lot of different El Paso outlets, including in my inbox. And so more being looked at that. Well, some interesting reporting going on about that. Some more action going on in immigration nationally, including a letter being sent by some very recognizable national Republican names to the DHS secretary over, well, taking real issue with the rise in crossings that has been seen at the border. And of course, we're really familiar in our area, including some new numbers coming out about what has been seen in Doña Ana with trafficking victims. Of course, the whole stash house phenomenon, not by any means isolated. Some more details coming out about what happened with that shooting incident at the Isleta Border Patrol station. Some more details on that today, and then a whole lot more that we'll get into involving local issues, but also want to mention our interview today. Going to be interviewing Justice Jeff Alley of the 8th Court of Appeals. One of our interviews that we'll be bringing you, of course, throughout the next month, involving the things that will be on the ballot for the election. So pretty much anywhere in our broadcast area in Texas, anyway, you're going to be having this race on your ballot, so we'll be delving into that one as well. So, however, again, you're tuned into the show, dropping those likes and reacts over on the social media that we do appreciate, including Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Frank Rodriguez, and Monica Cervantes. Assuming that means we're up there, even though the numbers are a little wonky over there. But that's why we're up in all the places we can in order to make it the most possible. So let's delve right into it. Interesting reporting out by a few local concerns, but citing specifically here from the El Paso Matters reporting that, their article titled DA's Lawyer Allegedly Behind Mysterious Emails in Walmart Shooting Case. And subheadline, Roger Rodriguez has also been accused of being part of DA Azan Rosales' efforts to remove the judge presiding over the case. So there has been a new court filing, essentially, that is the source of this recent one. And might recognize another name here, filing by attorney Justin Underwood, or also known as Justin B. Underwood, previous guest on the show here, to talk about some of these legal issues. And just quoting directly from both the reporting from El Paso Matters, but the filing itself, I'm convinced that the emails purportedly sent from an email address associated with the Hoffman family actually originated with someone in the office of the district attorney, to include District Attorney Yvonne Rosales, Roger Rodriguez, ADA Curtis Cox, and potentially other upper management staff of the DA's office to advance their own agenda. And that has been a part of other hearings. So whenever I say issues and controversies involving the district attorney's office lately, well, there's been a number of them. El Paso Matters, if you go to their page, actually has a few of them laid out, including, of course, the recusal petition against the judge presiding over the state's level of the actual August 3rd case, the emails, conspiracy accusations being made in filings by the district attorney's office itself, as well as, of course, the case dismissals involving the public defender's office. So there has been a lot swirling around here, and this is one of the latest wrinkles. And so that's why it's going to be part of an upcoming hearing, actually October 11th, so right next week, and that date is important for another reason that we'll get into. And essentially what that order is being looked into, well, that hearing is being looked into to see if that gag order was violated. Of course, you may recall that Judge Sam Medrano in this case put a gag order after pretty well excoriating the district attorney's office for a lack of preparation, both for them pressuring to move the case up, but essentially in his terms, not showing the work being done to lay the groundwork for it. So there's more wrinkles to come with this, and potentially could, well, impact parts of the case, whether or not it actually does. Again, the email we're talking about here that, again, was even received into my inbox was supposedly from related to the family of Alexander Gerard Hoffman Roth, the German citizen who was residing in Juarez and who was of course, one of the victims during that day. And again, the email purported to be from Alexander Hoffman, but came from a different person, Rosa Marie Valdez Garcia's email account. And they actually have a version of that posted up there on the El Paso Matters page, so you can take a look for it yourself. That led to a few back and forth kind of things involved in this. I mean, it was not just a single one-shot email. It was back and forth for a bit, including response to some other local outlets reporting, including, I do believe, KVIA's was specifically mentioned as part of that. So that is just a further complication is the best way I can think to put it right now. That does raise questions about how this case can even proceed. Just to bring it home for a second, the reason that we have used very specific terms and very specific ways when referring to this case, including talking about the indicted shooter and the fact of the trial wanting to progress, has all been more or less around the idea of that this case needs to be able to progress. Because I, again, would be hard-pressed to think of a more significant piece of litigation that will have gone on within our region, at the very least in living memory. Feel pretty confident about that. So just about everything that we do and the way we talk about it is kind of in furtherance of that, because specifically, if that case for any reason does not come to a successful conclusion, and I'm sure we all have an idea in mind of what that may be, and if it particularly comes down to some kind of technicality, some kind of, well, something wasn't done exactly right, or some kind of interference, of which never been directly accused, but I've definitely been adjacent to the ire of a judge and the idea of affecting judicial proceedings, and I never want to get anywhere even in that kind of vicinity near the cone of fire, so to speak. Again, that's why we do what we do and the way we talk about this, and we've been also committed to bringing you updates about it. But this is just weird, is the best way I can think to put it. The idea of this email coming from purportedly a family member, but the provenance of that actually being more than a little bit suspect. And again, as El Paso Matters notes in this case, there have been, again, the filings, including from the district attorney Yvonne Rosales, as publicly accused El Paso Matters CEO Robert Moore, better known as Bob Moore, and Justin B. Underwood being part of a, quote, political conspiracy to oust her in response to a September removal petition, which is another one of those wrinkles going on here. That vote filed by local defense attorney Omar Carmona, who we've also previously interviewed on the show. Now, just to make it clear, we have, of course, reached out to the district attorney's office in order to invite them on, her or someone from the office, onto the show in order to clarify any of this. But essentially, the response we've gotten is that until any of these pending legal matters are resolved, of course, there is the gag order involving the August 3rd case, which is entirely understandable, but also with, say, the removal petition that has been filed in court, and that there is currently stuff waiting on to be done by, well, the county attorney, among other things, that essentially there will be no response coming from that. But again, open invitation happening there. And a few comments coming in on this point. Eric McNabb saying there's no reason to assume that. Not sure which exactly point you're referring to there. Broccoli Menace with, I think, a sentiment that may be out there in the community, but let's just say that making sure that the path of justice is followed to the letter and to completion, as much as satisfaction could be achieved in other ways. I don't think that that would do us any favors in this community by trying to circumvent or otherwise navigate the concept there. And RJ saying that this case is becoming the highest rated soap opera in town. Meanwhile, the shooter needs to face the music, families in El Paso, and answer the families especially. And that's one of the most important things, the whole idea of, like, victims' impact statements that would come at the conclusion of a trial in which a guilty verdict is reached. I've sat in a couple of those, and nowhere near this magnitude of case, but, well, at least to the community, of course, every case is deeply impacting to those that have been involved in it, including some of the murder cases or similar trials I've sat in on. And yeah, that is one of the most emotional moments of it. And to see that be denied potentially to the victims and the survivors and families in this case would be, yeah, nah. That's not what I'm going to be on board with anyway. But so that's just one of the many things we're going to be talking about today. We, of course, got a lot more stuff going on with the immigration updates. And why, Even that's a whole show. I've just mentioned in that topic right there, but we'll break down a few things that have happened. And Eric McNabb saying, okay, clarifying that there's no reason to assume that the Patrick Crucius case will be dropped. There's a narrative pushing and fear-mongering part of the right-wing plot against the DA. Okay, that's a lot of assumptions if we're going on that here. By the way, I never said dropped, but if it's not handled carefully, I mean, can you imagine a much worse outcome coming out of there being a not guilty verdict by technicality about something not being done right? That would affect this community in ways that would be hard to really anticipate, but you can assume there would be some. And by all means, keep seeing conspiracy theories and plots out there in everything else when we're just trying to describe and discuss the important things going on in the community. In any case, we're going to take that next break. Now, coming out of this break, again, interview today, getting more into our election coverage, specifically getting into one of the courts, different courts than what we've been talking about, some of the elected ones specifically, and, well, what that means for y'all and what you need to consider about what'll be on the ballot. So stay tuned for that and a whole lot more after this break. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments going on over the social media phone lines a little bit later as we do. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Two vehicles are blocking the right shoulder on the I-10 eastbound at the Piedra Street exit. I-10 eastbound is slow. Stop and go from just past Cotton to Reynolds with 8-minute delays. 54 Patriot northbound at Trowbridge. A disabled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. On Dyer northbound at the Gateway, an injury accident. And police responding to an accident South Desert Boulevard at Thorn Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small businesses create bold signs to make big impressions. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 12/31. Visit staples.com/this is your sign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
When we have a dedicated public servant, we need to hold on to them. We have that servant in Justice Jeff Alley at the 8th Court of Appeals. After practicing law for 29 years in El Paso, he gave up a law firm partnership to work at the court. Governor Abbott has twice appointed him to serve as a justice on the court. A principled conservative who fairly applies the law as written. We need to keep Justice Jeff Alley.
Political ad paid for by Justice Jeff Alley in accordance with the voluntary limits of the Judicial Campaign Fairness Act.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
If you're in a room with 4 other people, chances are one of you has already been an identity theft victim. 1 in 5. Watching your accounts and credit isn't enough. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, LifeLock will work to fix it. Nobody can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save up to 25% on their first year with promo code BECK at lifelock.com. Promo code BECK, save 25% off your first year.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk is where you can find us. Add those comments. Keep those going, as we'll pop up the relevant ones more or less to what we're talking about at any given point, and also delve further into those phone calls a little bit later in the show, as we usually do. But of course, election season is upon us, and of course we got that whole election music going on right now. And joining us here in studio, we are joined by Justice Jeff Alley with the Texas 8th Court of Appeals. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Absolutely happy to do so here, and to start kicking off our candidate coverage, because there's a whole lot of very important positions. Even though this is a midterm election, which unfortunately historically has less turnout, that does not mean that there is any lack of important positions and issues on the ballot here. And honestly, the one that you are currently a part of and then are running for re-election involving is one of the more interesting ones, in that it probably doesn't come to mind as much unless someone has had reason to have direct dealing with it. I mean, the courts in general tend to be a bit apocryphal to those who have not had reason to be involved in it. And so is therefore a little bit different than some of the interviews we are and have been doing, when policy is important, but ultimately this is more of a, again, this might not be the totally right phrasing, what's the way I think of it, a reactive body. You all aren't setting an agenda and looking for what to go at, even as there has been other judicial bodies at the federal level talking about their docket and things. Y'all have to basically deal with what is brought to you. So for those that aren't familiar, what is the 8th Court of Appeals?
Yeah, great question, Andrew. I always try and explain the court this way. If you kind of picture in your mind a pyramid, our court system is a pyramid. At the base of the pyramid, you've got roughly around about 2,000 trial courts across the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And every day those courts are resolving people's disputes. You know, they might be a specialty court that deals with criminal cases. They might be a family law court that only deals with family law matters. They might be a district court that hears civil matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so generally when those trial judges finally resolve a case, if someone is unhappy with the result, they will have a right of appeal. And so then the question is, where do they appeal to? And that's where our court is. We kind of sit in the middle of that pyramid. There are 14 courts of appeals across the state of Texas. They're in all the major metropolitan areas. And the court that I sit on, the 8th Court, we're here in El Paso. And so we would hear basically any appeal from El Paso, and then our jurisdiction runs all the way out to essentially Ozona, and then all the way up to Andrews. So we would have that entire western part of the state, but we also get cases transferred from around the state. So we've heard cases from San Antonio and from Beaumont and Houston and Eastland, and that's not at all unusual. And so we're in the middle of the pyramid. There are 80 Court of Appeals justices, just as myself. Some of the courts are bigger than others. We're a 3-justice court. When we hear an appeal, all 3 justices will look at the record, look at the briefs, and basically decide the case together. And then if you go to the very top of the pyramid, if someone is unhappy with our decision, if it's a civil case, it would go to the Texas Supreme Court. And if it's a criminal case, it would go to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And then kind of the other way that I always try and explain our court to people is, you know, we don't have witnesses come in and testify. Right. What we're basically doing is reviewing what happened at those 2,000 courts that could come through our court from below, and we look at the record and we're trying to decide, you know, did the trial judge follow the law as they should have, and then more rarely, but it does happen. If a jury decided something, did they decide it based on the evidence that was in front of them? Was there sufficient evidence to support their findings? And that's with this other caveat that I always want to toss in there is, you know, no trial is going to be perfect. No trial judge is going to make all the perfect calls. No lawyer is going to, you know, make all the perfect objections. So the real knack of what we do is look at the record and decide under what we have certain standards of review that I guess the best way to explain it is where there are so many errors that this case needs to get reversed and sent back for a retrial. Or if it's a question of law and that law is, black or white, and the trial judge said it's white, but it's really black, then we have to make that call and decide how that case should be decided.
So as you mentioned retrial there, it's interesting that you say that because, of course, that is a possible, outcome of it. There could be, overturnings, there could be changes, particularly when we're talking about things like the way I feel that most brought up is involving award amounts, particularly, within like civil trials or those for damages kind of things that I often hear on appeal. Amounts are lessened, that kind of thing. But when it comes, just arrives at y'all's court, it is not a relitigation of the trial. It is not, start over, do it again. It's you're looking for, again, the problems, things that could affect essentially the integrity of what has been happening in the previous trial to see if there are therefore things that need to be changed. And so it's even a little bit different of a skill set and focus than what people may think of for a regular trial court, because you're not necessarily trying to weigh the balance of depending on the standard preponderance of the evidence or on the or beyond a reasonable doubt. You're trying to say, okay, was this done correctly, and was it done incorrectly enough that we now have to take action, essentially?
Spot on. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if a trial judge, let's say, lets in a piece of evidence that they should not have let in, because we have a set of rules that dictate when evidence comes in or doesn't. And the trial judges have some discretion in that matter, but if we believe that the trial judge abused their discretion and let in a particular piece of evidence, then we have to decide, was that evidence so crucial that it affected the outcome of the trial? And we have a whole set of standards that dictate how we would analyze that depending on the kind of evidence and the kind of trial. So, for instance, if a judge let in evidence that should have been excluded based on the Constitution, say like in a criminal case, a Fourth Amendment issue, that has one standard of review. If it's just a regular piece of evidence, it's a question of whether something was hearsay or not, or was it authenticated or not, then there's a separate standard of review that we look at to decide, essentially, was the trial fair enough that the parties essentially got justice under our system.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Justice Jeff Alley for the 8th Court of Appeals, and of course, candidate running for the place 2 on the ballot that is coming up in November. If you want to find out anything more about him, his positions and experience and such, alleyforjustice.com. That's ALLEY for justice.com. Also find him similarly over on Facebook as well on those pages here. So again, the difference here in a lot of other positions that we'll be talking about, besides other, similar, legal, judges and judgeships and justices, will be that kind of, you don't set policy. You don't set it as okay, so here's the case we'll review. I mean, there's a standard for review, and if they don't make that standard, it may not be accepted for appeal, that kind of a thing. But it's not a picking and choosing. I feel like a lot of people may have thought about the Supreme Court of the United States lately. Again, that was kind of what I alluded to about them setting their session, and that is a very different experience than, again, the 8th Court of Appeals. So this also almost ends up being more of a kind of philosophical question about how do you consider and how do you handle the process, and how will you then administer the office as you, or if you'll continue to be elected to it.
Well, let me kind of break that one down a little bit.
Yeah, it's a complicated one, I'll admit.
So first of all, I mean, my basic judicial philosophy is kind of built on kind of an adherence and respect for the rule of law. That is, I mean, we all have rules we have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Citizens have rules. Maybe the criminal code is certainly a set of rules. People who transact business in the commercial setting, you have a set of rules. Lawyers, when they go in to argue a case, they have a set of rules, and the judge who decides the case at the trial level has a set of rules, and I have a set of rules as well. And so I really believe that when those rules are clear cut and they apply to a situation, we need to apply those rules, and as they're written. We apply statutes kind of as they're written, because if we don't, then you devolve into a system of what I would call kind of situational justice, where you're deciding cases based on whether you like the person in front of you or not. I mean, there's not a single case that comes before us where, the lawyers, and I respect this, are they're trying to put the white hat on their client and the black hat on the other party,
Mm-hmm.
and then vice versa. The other party will say, "No, I got the white hat." And so, if that's how you decide cases, who you think has the whiter hat, there's just not a set of rules that people can live by. And so, I mean, I listen to that, but basically, I'm looking for, if it's a case governed by a statute, we follow that statute. If it's a case governed by the rules of evidence and whether a trial judge should have let evidence in or not, then I'm going to start with that rule and the text of that rule.
Of course, another major difference whenever we're talking about legal positions such as this is that experience is a requirement. I mean, a lot of other elected official positions that are on the ballot don't have strict, what is your background? I mean, that tends to be a very important part of how any voter makes their decision is based on the experience, what they like about the background of someone here. But again, in this kind of a case, it's not just I think I'd be a good fit. It's you have to have knowledge, experience, training, those kind of things. At the very least, membership in the bar, those kind of things. So
Right.
talk a little bit about your experience if you can, and what you would bring to the position or continue to do so.
Yeah, well, I mean, a campaign is really like a job interview. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were interviewing for a job that asks, tell me about your education, tell me about your related experience, tell me about your direct experience, and tell me something about your character. So education, I graduated Texas Tech School of Law in 1985 in the top 10% of my class. I was on law review. I then came to El Paso and I practiced 29 years with two firms here. I got to argue my very first case in front of the Texas Supreme Court when I was a second-year lawyer, and argued enough cases that I became board certified in civil appeals. That's a certification for people who practice enough and done enough appeals, and you have to also pass a test. Last time I checked, there are less than 400 lawyers in the state of Texas who have that certification. And so then after 29 years of being a frontline trial lawyer and an appellate lawyer, I then went to the court as a staff attorney and was a staff attorney for then Chief Justice McClure for 5 years. And then after she needed to retire, the governor appointed me to fill out her term, and then most recently the term that I'm on. And so as a justice on the court, I've authored over 250 opinions, and I've sat on over 750 panels. And so that's my experience in a nutshell.
Again, if you've been just joining us right now, guest has been Justice Jeff Alley with the 8th Court of Appeals, again, up for re-election for the place 2, the unexpired term that will be running through, I think we talked about this before the program, through essentially the end of 2024, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And otherwise, they are 6-year terms here. So that is on the ballot and will be for anyone in our Texas audience here, or pretty much our West Texas audience. If you're other parts of Texas, that's your problem. And we'll be on there for anyone within El Paso, essentially El Paso and points immediately east. So again, any more information about Justice Alley, his platform, or really his qualifications, alleyforjustice.com. Again, ALLEY for justice.com. Similarly on Facebook as well. So Justice Alley, thank you very much for coming by and speaking with us about your position, your experience, and how this will work going forward here today.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you informing the public about these down ballot races, because they really are very important.
Absolutely. And it may not be, again, people may not think about it until they're involved with it, but you want to make sure that if you're going to be involved with it, potentially ever, that it's handled right. So again, thank you for coming in to speak with us about that.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and take that next break now. Coming out of this break, more talk about the big news of the day and the things that affect us here in the borderland. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The FBI has identified a Mexican migrant who was shot and killed at a U.S. Border Patrol station in East El Paso. The FBI said that 33-year-old Manuel Gonzalez Moran of Mexico was killed after lunging at agents with a sharp object. This happened on Tuesday afternoon at the Isleta Border Patrol station. Gonzalez Moran had been detained earlier for entering the country illegally. El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar is asking asking the Justice Department to investigate the deadly migrant shooting in Hudspeth County as a hate crime. A migrant was shot and killed. He's been identified as Jesus Sepulveda Martinez, and a woman was wounded. She's been identified as Berenice Casillas Carrillo. This happened last week in rural Hudspeth County. Authorities are investigating. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
The 10 eastbound is starting to slow down from Thorne Avenue to Paisano Drive with 9-minute delays right now. Downtown I-10 eastbound at Piedra Street exit, 2 vehicles are blocking the right shoulder, stay to the left. An injury accident on northbound Dyer at Gateway North. A crash with injuries South Desert Boulevard at Thorne Avenue, and a crash earlier, still slow in traffic, Zaragoza at George Dieter. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the CBS 4 Warren Weather Center, I'm forecaster Vanya Castillo. Well, we are starting off this Thursday with a bit of rain in the borderland. We are going to be seeing that dying out, though, and returning for our evening and night hours here in El Paso and Las Cruces. We are looking at a 50% chance for rain. Also looking at some cooler temperatures. Las Cruces, you are looking at a high of 71 today. El Paso, you're looking at a high of 73.
This report is sponsored by News Nation. Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 5 p.m. Mountain. To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnationnow.com/join us.
Your engine may be trying to tell you something.
Hello? Yeah, under the hood. Mind opening up?
I need a favor. I've been driving you around for years, and I haven't asked for much. Some gas, a little oil, new tires once in a while. But look, I'm feeling a little run down and sluggish. I just don't have that same get up and go. And I'm afraid I might fail my emissions test. I warned you. Didn't you see my check engine light? So here's where you come in. Head to your favorite auto parts store and pick up a bottle of CRC, guaranteed to pass emission system cleaner. Psst, it's in a box. Just open up the bottle and glug, glug, glug right down the old gas tank. CRC, guaranteed to pass, uses real detergent additives to clean my whole system. I promise I'll feel so much better. And so will you, because guaranteed to pass actually does what it says. Or CRC will double your money back. Hey, have I ever steered you wrong? CRC, guaranteed to pass emission system cleaner. Available at your favorite auto parts store.
This fall, find everything you love listening to on Audible. From memoirs and true crime to celebrities and sci-fi, Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com. This report is sponsored by Audible.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late.
Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of discussions going on over there, including comments coming in from RJ, Kathy Codry, Eric McNabb. I believe that's Steve Ivy, but just kind of keeps showing up weird, just as Facebook user on this end. So I don't think it's a problem on yours, probably with some of the tech we're using. But a good afternoon to you as well in that case. To the other commenters here as well, including Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, and more. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. Ed Clore, Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Frank Rodriguez, and Monica Cervantes. Again, we mentioned those because, well, hey, we appreciate that. Helps with the algorithmic things, as many of those are still going on. And as well as comments coming in, including Kathy Coder bringing up that, there is some updates about but pardons coming for simple marijuana possession, which is a another thing that'll probably be, well, let's just call that probably a ripe topic for tomorrow, because in the borderland, of course, we're dealing with, I mean, not that those don't exist, but different issues with different kinds of federal laws, specifically immigration here. But before we delve into that, at least some of the comments coming in there, Eric McNabb showing a incredibly, probably beyond healthy dose of cynicism there, saying that Republicans don't believe in the rule of law. All supposed respect for it is just pure theater. Their oath is to Greg Abbott, Christianity, and the Republican Party. Greg Abbott wouldn't choose a judge who didn't share their cut off their, assuming values or judgment or perspective. And I'm not even going to say that there is absolutely no one out there that might feel that way, but to say that, and therefore that's what it all is. Again, there's a reason that outside of this recent interview, because policy is not so much a part of a judgeship. RJ puts it pretty well, saying that judges are referees who enforce the rule of law, rule of trial law. They spend years learning multiple rule books and earned the respect given in court. And they definitely will enforce the respect. If you ever thought you're going to get away with disrespecting a judge in their own courts, prepare to cancel your plans for however long they're going to hold you in contempt for, is all I'm going to say there. But the idea that essentially, again, I've been kind of struggling with this and how to describe it accurately, is besides just saying like no to that line of previous reasoning, but the concept that anyone who disagrees with me politically could only be doing so for nefarious reasons, as opposed to the idea of, well, people may come to different conclusions on issues here. I'm not saying that I agree with, and frankly, I'm by no means qualified to answer for the entire Republican Party or anything on this, and frankly, I'm not interested in doing so, but I can respect the fact that on some issues I agree with them, and some issues I don't on party platform, but I also don't find nefarious goals in mind whenever it comes to how those differences of opinion come forth. And frankly, I find it kind of counterproductive, not even just a political discussion or in trying to drum up support for your own, but in terms of a discourse in a society, how we actually resolve issues. If all it is, demonization, as opposed to what are the actual issues. I've made at various points like a call to reality and getting beyond the rhetoric, and that ain't it. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's get back to some of those stories we're talking about. A lot of updates coming in today on a variety of immigration situations that we have been discussing. It's just specifically, let's break down a few of them here. More details on the shooting that happened earlier this week at the Isleta Border Patrol Station. The FBI releasing some information saying that 33-year-old Manuel Gonzalez Moran, a Mexican national, who was shot in that incident, taken to the hospital and died from his injuries, that he was being processed at the Border Patrol Station there, again, 12245 Pine Springs, for illegal re-entry into the United States. And this is a particular case. Some of it was mentioned there on the update from our news partners at KFOX 14, but there'll be even more details that specifically that Moran was previously in the United States. And according to the reporting here in 2011, specifically, he was arrested by the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office in Pueblo, Colorado, on charges of attempted first-degree murder, and was convicted for assault with a deadly weapon resulting in serious bodily injury. And in May of 2022, he was paroled after serving 11 years of his overall 17-year sentence, and at that point was removed from the U.S. to Mexico. And so then in March, he also attempted to illegally re-enter the United States and was deported back to Mexico at that point in time. Again, according to our reporting from our news partners at KFOX 14 and the FBI, cited specifically here. So that's one incident that is being updated in our area, along with more narcotics seizures, specifically $600,000 worth of cocaine going to be found seized at the Bridge of the America. It's just kind of a subsidiary story. But we've also been talking a lot about stash houses and the modern phenomenons that we've been seeing in the continual changes and morphology that can be seen when it comes to the immigration station situation in our region. We've talked a lot about stash houses in El Paso and kind of the Texas side of things, but an interesting update coming out from the Doña Ana County Sheriff's Office that 188 trafficking victims have been found in Doña Ana County since May of 2022, just this year. And so those who were trafficked and held against their will, including, of course, investigations being done by Doña Ana Sheriff's Office, deputies in conjunction with Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals, and Border Patrol, and that it turned over 5 traffickers to its federal partners. So it's by no means a even regionally specific areas. It's been going on in a lot of different places. And so I can't say I'm surprised, though I find it educational and very elucidating to find out more about what the numbers are looking like. Of course, there's always the underlying assumption that I have in any case that there's probably more, because these are just the ones that have been found. There's not an absolute census of all crime. Such a thing would probably have to be, well, at this point in time, I'm just going to call it impossible to know absolutely how much is going on with this kind of crime, these types of it. Yeah, not a good thing. But a quick update I also wanted to mention of a crime of a different stripe, specifically that of what Stephanie Seifert teased yesterday. Again, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14 on what's been going on with catalytic converter thefts. That story, of course, airing last night on KFOX 14 News at 9. And just a spoiler alert, if you're in the 79912 or 79925 zip codes, that's where most of the catalytic converter thefts have been reported in 2022. And a lot of it, what we were talking about involved in it, is that this tends to happen in places where vehicles are left out and available for a long period of time. So parking lots, some car lots, or those kind of things. So if you got a garage, you're already ahead of the curve in dealing with that. And just as a personal note here, we do have vehicles, large ones parked in front of our building. We have a lot of cameras on the front of our building, so don't anyone get any ideas about that. But I mean, there were more than 100 police reports just from January through July of this year where, again, catalytic converters stolen, which is, yeah, it's a, I mean, I've got to wonder who's buying these at this point, because I can't imagine that the criminal enterprise here is melting down and trying to purely extract the precious metals that are existent within the catalytic converters. So there's probably some further investigations to be done about, okay, who exactly is buying these and what excuses are they accepting, saying, yeah, I got 5 catalytic converters. No, I just found them on the roadside. Why do you ask? Because, yeah, that doesn't fly in my mind. Any case, we're going to be talking more about this. James Holmes bringing up slightly of a different situation, saying that Veronica Escobar wants it investigated as a hate crime, jumping the gun before the investigation is done. That's about the other immigration-related shooting that has happened in the area. That one out of Hudspeth County, so not related necessarily, I don't believe, unless I'm mistaken, to the one we're talking about at the Border Patrol station, but the other one that has happened in this last couple of weeks. So just clarifying there. In any case, those are some of the major stories we're dealing with today. But of course, we've got to take that next break. And what we do at this point during the show is open up those phone lines as well. So if you want to add your 2 cents telephonically, so to speak, we can, of course, get you on the line. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound travel is still heavy with delays this afternoon from Thorne to Paisano Drive, 9-minute delays. An injury accident northbound Dyer at Gateway North. Police still working another crash with injuries incident. South Desert Boulevard at Thorne, and road construction has the left lane closed for the next couple of weeks. America's Avenue eastbound at Socorro. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by News Nation. Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 5 p.m. Mountain. To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnationnow.com/join us.
On the Happiness Formula podcast, Dr. Barry Schwartz, best-selling author of The Paradox of Choice and Why We Work, helps you tackle life's biggest decisions. Join the eminent psychologist as he combines vivid case examples with psychological insights to deliver vital takeaways you can use every day.
We should be asking how we can make good lives better, how we can move people from okay to really happy.
Listen to The Happiness Formula on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence. confidence.
Find SmartMouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Beautiful, top quality, long-lasting dental implants as low as $19.95 at 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where implants are affordable. Other places charge $3, $4, $5, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please do not pay that much. Please do come to 1995implants.com, where our price is much lower, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. Plus, at 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and very convenient payment options. Now's the time to get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures and get the beautiful new smile that you want at a very affordable price. 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Recycle your old technology free during Staples Free Tech Take Back. Items like old modems, mice, and mobile phones, or cables, calculators, and camcorders. Staples Rewards members get $5 back in rewards. Exclusions apply. Limit 1 reward per month. Visit staples.com/recycling. Recycle at Staples.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of comments coming in there, but I also got those phone lines open, of course, as we do. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And more comments coming in, including Ion Graham, Kathy Codry, RJ, James Holmes, Eric McNabb. I believe that's just not showing up the name here, but good afternoon to some others as well out there. And Ida Beza Gardner, Flacco Menace a little bit earlier. A lot of comments going to keep those going. We'll pop them up as they're relevant, including some discussion about the catalytic converters. And RJ saying that, yeah, this has happened years ago, maybe decades. I guess they're still worth $1 or $2. Kathy Godry saying nowadays they're worth between $50 and $100, depending on the vehicle. That seems like a lot of work to go through for $50 to $100. But again, I just maybe don't get that mindset. RJ saying, yeah, platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Oh my catalytic converter is gold and silver with diamonds. Maybe not quite that much, but I've done the deep dive into what the heck is in them. And yeah, those rare and precious metals then ordered to get emission standards, basically. Yeah, it's complicated, but let's get back to those phone lines again right now. That number again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side along with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, a great interview with the Associate Justice of the 8th Court of Appeals.
Oh, glad you appreciate it. It's, again, one of the judgeships or, legal positions like that in general are often, well, the people I hear talking most about it are those who have had to deal with those positions because either they are in the courthouse professionally or personally due to court issues. So focusing on those, I think, is important in its own right, because otherwise they kind of go just not talked about.
Yes, I dealt with them when I was a probation officer assigned to the Court Services Division, but that was because I handled an appellate caseload. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is that once an appeal is perfected and it goes to the 8th Court of Appeals, a lower court can no longer, we as when I was in the probation department, we could not supervise them anymore. So that's why it was important for the trial court to put those people on supervised bond.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, at one time, El Paso had one Chief Justice and 3 Associate Justices. But we lost a justice to one of the bigger areas in East Texas.
Okay. Yeah, of course, that was something that we mentioned there about how we're a 3-panel court on the 8th Court of Appeals in our area now. I honestly will admit, I did not know that was something that could be were redistricting changes there. So, okay, interesting.
Yeah, but what's also interesting is that this 8th Court of Appeals covers 17 counties.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not exactly the immediate points east like a lot of ours, like a state senator or other elected positions that have regions and not just counties in our area are, but it's a lot of points east, as you kind of delineated some of those, northern and southern eastern parts of the limits of this actual district.
Yeah, but anyway, it is an important court because people do have they do need, sometimes they do need to appeal, or you do have a right of appeal if you have a legitimate gripe. That's to put it plain and simple.
Yeah, and Kathy Cody had asked a question earlier about does this include a small claims court? And in my hasty legal research here, I do believe so, but I'm not 100% on that, having never gone through the process myself.
Okay, small claims court, known from their municipal court or the justice courts, those are appealed directly to the county courts at law in the state of Texas.
So again, if I'm reading that right, then it could end up in the path of this. But again, I thankfully, knock on wood, have never had to do that kind of a situation myself.
Right. Yeah. Well, it can eventually go to the 8th Court, but it can. But anyway, I also wanted to talk about that guy, that immigrant that was recently shot at one of the Border Patrol detention centers.
Yes.
Yeah, this guy is already a multiple felon from what I saw in his background, and the fact that he's in the country again, that's another felony.
Yeah, because again, this is not just the same kind of situation that we're talking about with the vast majority of what we've been seeing here, those released pending like asylum hearings or what have you. I mean, this guy has specifically been removed for criminal proceedings from the United States. So this isn't even a case of committed a crime elsewhere, fleeing justice in that way, or those kind of situations that often get brought up kind of apocryphal and kind of anecdotally. This is a specific case where he was charged, served time, and upon release from prison was removed from the country.
Yes, he was a violent felon, or he is a violent felon, or was a violent felon. But the fact that he came into the U.S. again, or you even try to come into the U.S., you've committed a felony, and I believe the statute is 8 U.S.C. 1326.
That sounds about right, but I'll take your word for it.
Yes, and one of the problems we had in the probation department, individuals that were put on probation and had ICE holds or INS holds at the time, they were picked up and deported, and then lo and behold, the flashes came back because they were, put into the system. We find people getting arrested everywhere from Corpus Christi, Texas, to Seattle, Washington.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and getting
news on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all
interesting thing trying to get these guys back into your jurisdiction, get them revoked, get them sent to prison.
News. All right, well, tell you what.
I'm Brian. I'll let you go because we're close to the top of the hour.
Yep, and we're in the news there. So thank you very much. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso, folks.
The suspect has been taken into custody outside of the Venetian. 10 people are hurt after an NYPD SUV hit pedestrians in the Bronx this afternoon. NYPD Chief of Patrols Jeffrey Madry says it happened at the intersection of Hoe and Westchester in the Norwood section as two officers were trying to stop a car theft. Two of those injured are in critical condition. Hunter Biden may soon be charged with tax crimes as federal investigators wrap up their case. Reporter John Decker says the decision on whether to formally press charges against the president's son will fall on Delaware's U.S. Attorney David Weiss.
There's actually a holdover from the Trump administration. It will not be something that will be made by Big Justice, as it's called, which is the main headquarters for the Department of Justice.
Federal agents have long been looking into the overseas business ventures tied to Hunter Biden. Family members of 9/11 victims are calling on the Senate to put its final approval on the Fairness for 9/11 Families Act Natalie Migliori reports.
The legislation would allow a federal terrorism fund to equally compensate the widows and children of those killed in the September 11th attacks.
It's about being there for the 9/11 families that lost their loved ones and our first responders, our heroes, on that dreadful day.
Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis from Staten Island says the fund paid out more than $3 billion between 2017 and 2020, but thousands of 9/11 families were excluded from the first payments. I'm Natalie Migliori.
President Biden is cheering IBM's pledge to invest $20 billion across the New York region. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Officials are offering $10,000 for information leading to a mysterious woman who orchestrated flights that brought illegal immigrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. The woman is accused of lying to the asylum seekers about jobs and housing waiting for them. It's still unclear what her relationship is to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's taking credit for the flights. Virgin Atlantic is suspending flights to Hong Kong, citing mounting difficulties. Richard Kimber says the move comes as the government is struggling to revive Hong Kong's reputation as a global transport hub.
Virgin Atlantic is suspending its London to Hong Kong services and closing its Hong Kong office after 30 years of operating in the city. The airline says the war in Ukraine and subsequent closure of Russian airspace makes the London route at least 1 hour longer and no longer financially viable. It's the first major carrier to abandon Hong Kong since American Airlines quit the city late last year.
New York City is bringing community organizations into schools through a new program aimed at building connections between students and community. Scott Pringle has more.
The program, called Project Pivot, brings representatives from community organizations into the schools. Schools Chancellor David Banks says they will try and improve the classroom culture, drive success, and connect students with community.
Some of them are going to be providing mentoring. They're going to be big brothers and big sisters to our boys and our girls. There are a whole host of resources that they're going to bring to these schools.
The city chose 138 schools to have this program based on a variety of academic and safety factors. The organizations chosen will help with violence prevention, career readiness, and enrichment programs.
A Texas Rangers baseball fan is reportedly being offered millions of dollars for Aaron Judge's record-breaking home run ball. A California sports memorabilia auction house is reportedly offering $2 million to Corey Humans, who caught it during Tuesday's Yankees-Rangers game. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
The can't-miss music event of the year is coming to the CW.
The 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Featuring once-in-a-lifetime performances from the biggest superstars in all of music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
what's up, Vegas?
Make some noise. I don't know if y'all ready for this.
All hosted by Ryan Seacrest from T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Don't miss our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Tomorrow night and Saturday night at 7 on the CW.
This report is sponsored by News Nation. Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 5 p.m. Mountain. To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnationnow.com/join us.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
Tired of the news about how everything is costing more?
Everything is stubbornly high.
Us too. That's why we made the iHeartRadio app absolutely free. When you download the free iHeartRadio app, you have radio stations you love at your fingertips whenever you want, wherever you want, along with millions of podcasts from the news you crave to the true crime series you can't resist. Playlists to fit any mood or activity. And here's the part you don't want to miss. It's all free. Download the free iHeartRadio app and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Northbrook Medical Clinic. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, we now have a major medical breakthrough you are going to want to hear about. The wave technology at Northbrook Medical uses gentle pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. There are 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge, showing our technology treats the root cause problem of ED without any pills. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and regain your love life, grab your phone and call us now. You'll qualify for the assessment, the exam, even the blood flow ultrasound, if you can believe it, totally free. And to the first 10 callers now, you'll get a gift that can produce powerful and rapid results in the bedroom. You're going to love that, trust me, guys. This is a $650 value free to callers now. 915-529-9000. That's 915-529-9000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Northbrook Medical Clinic now to qualify. 915-529-9000.
John Mellencamp returns to the road, and iHeartRadio is getting you there. We'll fly you and a guest to the tour date of your choice and set you up with VIP tickets to the show. Plus, slap a backstage pass on your jean jacket so you can meet John. And you'll walk away with a sheet of handwritten lyrics to one of his legendary tunes. Prize provided by AEG. Enter for your chance to win now at iHeartRadio.com/John Mellencamp.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound starting to slow down for your afternoon commute from Hawkins to past the Patriot at Copia Street. It's an 11-minute delay. On the I-10 eastbound from Artcraft down to the 54 Patriot, that's an 8-minute delay. An accident's blocking the center lane on South Desert Boulevard at Thorne. Police still working an injury accident on North Dyer Street at Gateway North. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of comments coming in there. And, of course, we have the phone line open as well. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And a lot more we'll get into there. One comment just came in about the way we handle callers. Okay, we've only ever blocked one person or banned them from the page for essentially just dropping F-bombs constantly. You can do that literally anywhere else on the internet. We don't need that here. But comment I think coming in from Steve Ivy, again, not saying you're banned or blocked or anything like that, but saying he's never been blocked or been in Facebook jail. If you heard me right, yesterday was due to bad behavior on my part. Not what I said, or at least not what I intended to, if that was the case. Saying that sometimes the tech acts weird and sometimes there can be consequences on other platforms. That means that, well, you're not able to comment and do things. But we make it very clear whenever we do have the reason to, and again, it's only happened one time, knock on wood so far, because otherwise people are just generally interested in actually having the discussion for the most part here. So if you wanting to move on, I guess that's your prerogative, but nothing doing on this end, I'll say. Some other comments coming in as well, including Austin Redfearn with an interesting comment about perhaps it's not important, just curious what happens to the remains of the criminal immigrant, the one shot at the Isleta Border Patrol station here, and asking further on, do the feds bury the remains or are they shipped back to his family? I'm going to say in this case, given that the Mexican consulate has been involved, they will probably be part of the answer to that. So I don't know, honestly, offhand. But again, given that the consulate is involved, probably will be involved in whatever process comes back to it. I'm assuming repatriation of the remains back to Mexico, but not entirely sure about that part of it here. And a lot of very interesting comments on some of the other points here, including a Kathy Codry saying that, certain censorship sucks. It absolutely does here. Try not to get canceled further with parts of that. In any case, and Eric von Holstein-Rathel, I think, posting up a comment related to the idea of remains going on there. So we'll check in more on some of those comments as well. But let's go to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie in Mesilla on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, I appreciate that. Last night, I made a comment relative to the local election stuff here in the 2nd District. You know, your Senator Thud Crud's coming out to the Farm and Ranch Museum.
Right.
And then some fella called and said, well, why don't I talk about this guy Mark Ronchetti fella? And the only reason I didn't is because you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you only wanted to concentrate locally southwest border. But the second congressional district, after the last 2020 census thing, actually bumps into a good portion of Albuquerque. So I guess that would still qualify for me talking about Ron Chetty. Is that correct?
You know what? Fair enough here. I guess I said we'll be focusing on trying to get the candidates on here. But I mean, talking about the governorship races for New Mexico is certainly fair game, I would say, as well, as it will be voted by on people within our listening area here.
Okay, so let me just say something about that. Now, this Ron Chetty fella, he's claimed to fame. He's got a mouthful of very white teeth. He's got more teeth in his mouth than 100 people out there, right? And his only other claim to fame, he's a hippy-dippy weatherman with all the hippy-dippy weatherman. That's his only claim to fame. He's already run for 2 state offices and 1 federal. I think he ran for senator. Now he's going to go for governorship. But our great governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, is got him. You know, she's winning so far. So, you know, he's going nowhere. And Ron Chetty, and everybody makes fun of his name. You know, you can imagine all that kind of stuff. So that's the comment I wanted to make on that. You know.
Okay. And again, I mean, we'll be talking about the gubernatorial races on both sides, probably a bit more focus on the Texas side of things, just because that's what a lot of people are very interested in. And open invitation to any of these candidates being mentioned here to come on the show, but I'm not going to hold my breath about it, given that they've got whole states to campaign on, which is why we are focusing and getting, communication with candidates on specifically to talk about the actual congressional districts. That's what we're going to hope to have on the program. But by no means does that mean that we can't talk about these other races, just to make that perfectly clear.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Maybe the guy can hear you in Albuquerque and then says, hey, my name is Ron Chetty, and I want to get on your program. Or even that Yvette Harrell girl. But in the meantime, let me just say this. Hey, Befuddled Ben, what Rex said, I don't know if you figured out what that meant, Andrew, but anyway, Befuddled Ben, what Rex said. That's all I want to say.
All right, fair enough. Well, thanks for the point of the call. Do appreciate it.
Hey, keep me on the phone. Don't let me go off, because my radio is all staticky.
All right, let's see what we can do there. But thank you for the point. Do appreciate it.
Okay.
Let's try to get at least one more call before we hit that next break. Already delving into the second hour of the program here. And RJ, on the idea of Ron Chetty, they're saying New Mexico's Beto hasn't met an office he won't run for. I'll admit I've not been as up on Ron Chetty, but given we're in election season, don't worry, I'll be brushing up on it, among other things. Some more comments coming in here. Again, just I guess that one's rubbing me the wrong way about us blocking anyone. We're definitely not, and I don't assume bad behavior on anyone's part, but platforms often do, which is why we're on a number of them here. At least one comment I wanted to get to here from Eric McNabb on the idea of white supremacist misinformation because of a illegal re-entry to the U.S. A first offense is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine up to 6 months in prison or both. And sure, I agree with you. What you're stating there in the law quotation appears to be correct to my understanding of it. But of course, this wasn't the first instance. This wasn't even the second instance. By my count, at least this was the third instance of illegal entry into the United States. So also, given the fact that there are literally felonies involved in his record, I'm going to call this one ever so slightly different than other cases we have been talking about and what we've been seeing on El Paso streets. This is a particularly extreme one. So, not going to, of course, agree with you on the first point of that there. Anyway, let's get to another call on the line here. We do have, again, if you're calling in the middle of the segment, we just pop you up here. So be ready on the line here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Befuddled Ben. Hello, how you doing?
Doing all right, Ben there. What's on your mind?
Ben on the east side. Okay. You guys may have already talked about this, but if you haven't, one of the things you might want to bring up is just next time you talk to people from the El Paso electric. Did you know that we're going to an advanced metering system?
Yes, I think that's come up a couple of times, not something we've specifically focused on, but yeah, the idea of the smart meters and those factors of it, as I know it's been billed in some ways as well, it'll be more accurate, so you'll be charged less, but you're also the last I want to say I've seen it locally, so someone correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're going to be charged for it just on its base level.
Yeah, but also you understand what the system is going to do. Evidently, it's going to give that it will provide, according to the electric company, it will provide detailed near real-time usage information. 15-minute data increments will show residential customers their energy use patterns and times of day they use the most energy, and every 5 minutes for commercial customers.
Okay.
Advanced meters can be read and controlled remotely by EPE, meaning no more waiting for estimated bills of meter read by technicians, allowing for easier service, activations, or transfers, or I guess cancellations. One of the things that comes up is a privacy issue. And that is, by being able to monitor all those things, the privacy related issues arise because they are now going to be doing instantaneous data can be taken. Energy consumption can be used for guessing the data subject's habits, creating a personal behavior profile, deducing personal and socioeconomic information, listing the existing electrical equipment and monitoring their usage, or guessing the presence, absence, or current activity of the residents. That has come up since the Europeans put it in, and a number of things the Texans have said, because almost every other county and state of Texas has adopted this. Do you like the idea of people knowing where you are, how you use different pieces of equipment in your house, your energy usage? I mean, it doesn't seem to be, on the surface a big problem, but all those data things can go into giving a personal profile that the government can access, sort of like what happens in China. Do you see the connection?
Yeah, no, I see the connection you're making there. And so to your specific question there, am I in favor of, more monitoring? In general, no. My general stance is that leave me the hell alone and let me live my life if I'm not hurting anyone. But more specifically, I got to say I'm not surprised, because this fits in very neatly in my mind with the whole move towards big data. And I'm not using that in a pejorative sense, but literally that's what some of the biggest companies that exist in the world right now, I'm talking about your Apples, your Googles, or Alphabet, technically, Meta, Facebook, of course, any social media, and also even things like Tesla, they're not so much interested in the physical product, what they're actually selling you anymore, but rather what they can gather from you. So each one of those points you mentioned there, I'm thinking about the dollar amount that would come along with it. Now, it wouldn't be absolute like dollars per interaction, but there's been formulas out there for years about each click you do on a social media platform, how much revenue that can essentially generate for the platform itself here. That's why, of course, it's free. And of course, this is a little bit different, but I guess what I really come down to it here is this in the interest of the individual consumer? There's some argument that it can be, particularly if it would be to be, ease of reconnections or, applying for different programs. But a lot of this doesn't really seem to be coming down that way. I mean, sure, certain technological advancements make sense. I mean, previously, the only way they could see what was going to go on with the grid was, what the reports they're getting from certain substations, the power draw. So more detailed monitoring about what's going on and being able to better. I mean, there are certain advantages I could see with it, but down at the micro level and the personal level, yeah, I'll continue to say I have issues, if only because, and this is slightly different, but it's still kind of connected in my mind. The stories out recently about one specific utility, not anywhere locally that I'm aware of, that had certain customers were signed up for essentially a price advantage. They got like $5 off their bill if they agreed to have certain temperature controls put on their house. And it happened that they enacted these and people were unable to change the thermostats in their house during a heat event. And that's a kind of a, wait, what? Like, sure, they may have understood that they were getting a credit on their bill, essentially, but not necessarily understanding that this could mean that their house could be left in the 80s or 90s during a heat wave.
Yeah, just sort of like what's is happening in Europe right now. And coming to a country near you, and to a city near us, evidently over 400,000 meters are due to be deployed starting in 2023, with an expected completion by 2025. I think some people should raise an alarm bell to try to find out, what protections does the consumer have against the electric company using that data, and also, private companies like Facebook and other social media, they also say that they're not supposed to be doing nefarious things with them, like reporting to the government what is going on. But the government seems to be getting that data anyway.
Yeah, again, I have concerns with it, and I realize that this may seem mildly hypocritical since we're on the platforms that we're kind of discussing here as well, but we take it kind of as a necessary evil for the most part in order to engender the discussion. And at least in some of these, you don't actually have to have an account, as one of the reasons we've made part of those discussions here. But yes, there's a level of concern here that I'm going to be paying very close attention to see what is actually being used with it and how it actually bears out, because there's the potential for benefit, but who it benefits is the real question that still remains in my mind.
Again, those who want absolute safety and freedom will get neither.
Yep, the old Ben Franklin quote, I do believe here. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a good day. Stay well, stay safe. God bless. And let's go, Brandon.
All right, appreciate the call here. Ted Core is pointing out that Colorado, yes, that's the area where the recent story I was referencing there about the thermostats being locked. It's interesting points to be made there, and other ones going on. Tell you what, let's go ahead and take that next break right now, get back on track, and get back with those phone calls as well. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound still slow both directions. Eastbound from Artcraft to the Patriot with 5-minute delays. Westbound from Hawkins Boulevard to Copia, that's a 6-minute delay. An accident's blocking the center lane on South Desert Boulevard at Thorn Avenue. A stalled truck's blocking the right shoulder. Joe Battle southbound at Montana. Police are at the scene of an accident Viscount west of Hawkins Boulevard. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small businesses create bold signs to make big impressions. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 12/31. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
Your engine may be trying to tell you something.
Hello? Yeah, under the hood. Mind opening up?
I need a favor. I've been driving you around for years, and I haven't asked for much. Some gas, a little oil, new tires once in a while. But look, I'm feeling a little run down and sluggish. I just don't have that same get up and go. And I'm afraid I might fail my emissions test. I warned you. Didn't you see my check engine light? So here's where you come in. Head to your favorite auto parts store and pick up a bottle of CRC, guaranteed to pass emission system cleaner. Psst, it's in a box. Just open up the bottle and glug, glug, glug right down the old gas tank. CRC, guaranteed to pass, uses real detergent additives to clean my whole system. I promise I'll feel so much better. And so will you, because Guaranteed to Pass actually does what it says, or CRC will double your money back. Hey, have I ever steered you wrong? CRC, Guaranteed to Pass Emission System Cleaner. Available at your favorite auto parts store.
And Doug. Hey, listener. Welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it.
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gotta fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Is there a calculator that can't compute in your kitchen drawer? Recycle it at Staples. A shredder that won't shred under your bed? Or a collection of cables cluttering up your closet? Recycle them now at Staples. With Staples Free Tech Takeback, we'll recycle your old tech free. Plus, rewards members get $5 back in rewards. So if you have modems, mice, and mobile phones making a mess of your home, recycle them now at Staples. Limit 1 reward per month. Redeemable in-store only. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/recycling for details.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to comment on the show, get involved with it, particularly at this point during the program. A lot coming on over on the social media. Seems to be going strong lately, but who knows? Might have some more outlets and ways you can get at us that we'll be coming up with. But, of course, we have that phone line available now as well. If you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Calling in the start of a segment, just be Johnny on the spot there, staying on the phone because we might pop you up live. And Eric von Holstein-Rathlow commenting on some, at least when the comments were pointing about or posting about ESG, the ESG scores. And so in response to that, him saying, sometimes I get in my car and do big smoky burnouts just to express what I think of ESG scores. I mean, I don't think you need a necessarily reason to do burnouts, but you do you. Hope your tires are fine. And Ted Core is also adding on to the idea of the control of thermostats and power supplies here that did that in Central Texas during the big freeze as well. That one was a little bit more apocryphal at the time, harder to pin down because there were people saying essentially that, oh, it seemed like something changed with the smart meter. And that's not smart meter. We're talking about smart meters, but also the actual smart thermostats, like, your wireless and able to be programmed to the internet ones. Anyway. Back to those phone lines. So again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. So someone dropped. So, okay, we'll try this one here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hello, this is Kevin on the east side.
Hey there, Kevin. What's on your mind?
Well, the only thing I'd like to talk about today is that your show needs one more hour. And I don't know how that can be arranged because the first given over mainly to your very interesting guests, and then the second hour for callers. And it just appears to me that we need another hour. What can be done to make that effective?
I mean, I do appreciate the comments that come along with them. It goes to a certain level of supporting it here. But frankly, the best way that can make this work, and I'm not planned here, but the best way it can be made to continue on the show, I'll tell you that one of the reasons that we went to the second hour of adding that onto the show, not to get too inside baseball here, was the community support, and specifically those wanting to partner with us in terms of promotion and advertising on the show. So if anyone has anyone that wants to be a part of that way, they can always drop me a line, Andrew Polk at iHeartMedia.com, or heck, just call into the show during the show and let me get down your information and we'll follow up that way. So just let us know what works for you here. But that's the bean counters, as they are always looking at what the best return on investment are, and that's one of the ways we can make that work best for it. But for my part here, we try to do it by making the show as best we can and hoping that people will appreciate it in due course.
Well, yes, you can. And the thing is that they need to understand, these people who are the financiers, let's say, for your program. People here locally can get more done. Their businesses, the local businesses, can thrive better than having a national program where they can complain or illuminate people on certain issues. So one more hour. I mean, if you don't mind, I know it's a lot of work. You got the Saturday program too, but I fully support that. And if there's anything I can do to help make that happen, I will. So thank you very much, Andrew.
No, sure thing. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a great one. All right. I mean, yeah, again, I take criticism and praise in equal measure. Wish they were in equal measure, but it doesn't always go that way. If you like what we're doing, let us know. If you don't like what we're doing, let us know anyway. If you want to talk more about what we got going on in the borderland, give us a call regardless. Let's go ahead and take that next break now to get back on track with everything else we're doing with the breaks and such. That number to call again is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The Federal Bureau of Investigations of El Paso has identified the migrant man who was shot and killed by a U.S. Border Patrol agent in East El Paso on Tuesday. The FBI says 33-year-old Manuel Gonzalez Moran, a Mexican national, was taken to the hospital and died from his injuries after the shooting. USBP agents encountered Moran by himself, and he was taken to the Isara Border Patrol station for processing. Once at the station, Moran later reportedly charged out of a holding cell, passed a Border Patrol agent, and grabbed a knife off a desk in the processing area, according to the FBI. In 2011, Moran was arrested by the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office in Pueblo, Colorado, on charges of attempted first-degree murder and was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, resulting in serious bodily injury. In May of 2022, this year, Moran was paroled after serving 11 years of a 17-year sentence, and he was removed from the United States to Mexico. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Slow traffic on the I-10 westbound from Hawkins past the 54 Patriot to Copia Street. 12-minute delays. I-10 eastbound between Arcraft and Patriot, it's an 8-minute delay. Police trying to clear an accident South Desert Boulevard at Thorne. Still some slowing in that area. An injury accident Viscount at Hawkins. And a crash just reported towards downtown Stanton at Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the CBS 4 Warren Weather Center, I'm forecaster Vanya Castillo. Well, we are starting off this Thursday with a bit of rain in the borderland. We are going to be seeing that dying out, though, and returning for our evening and night hours here in El Paso and Las Cruces. We are looking at a 50% chance for rain. Also looking at some cooler temperatures. Las Cruces, you are looking at a high of 71 today. El Paso, you're looking at a high of 73.
This report is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways for children of all ages to learn about sustainability and environmental education at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Being aware of the world around you is important.
When it comes to news, yes, I am.
So we're feeding your need to know 24/7 at the top and bottom of the hour.
I like to know what's going on in my locality, abroad.
Events of the world.
Fairly so. Yeah, I'm pretty connected.
Or down the street.
For the most part, I know what's going on.
You know, I need to be aware and what to look out for, and I'm real cautious, so yeah, I need to have that.
It's what we do. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Staples Print and Marketing Services help small businesses create bold signs to make big impressions. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 12/31. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in over there on the social media, and including questioning about what other Saturday shines we do. Derek von Holstein Rathlow saying that it's a Saturday show. Yes, it's the El Paso History Radio Show. History is not quite there. There is a legacy going on from Leon Metz to the program today here, but was never directly on air with Mr. Metz himself, as much as I definitely listened back at that point in time here. But yes, the El Paso History Radio Show, Saturdays 10 to noon on News Radio 690 KTSM. And just since we're bringing it up, this weekend we're going to be talking about some spooky campus tours, haunted campus tours, but also the history of the campus of the University of Texas at El Paso as part of it. So again, that's 10 to noon Saturdays here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We also have our own social media pages for those programs as well, some cross-applied ones such as the Andrew J. Polk page, but you can also find us there with full video and the graphics as well. Some more of the comments that are coming up here. Shortening it, changing it around. We do take it with equal measure. I'm just going to say not too much of that potentially going on right now. But I also have Rue Roscoe over on Social Ice. Just wanted to say hi, hello to you as well. And more commentary on a lot of the immigration situations we got going on here. Those dropping those likes and reacts. Just the simple way to put it there. We do have Jerome Gonzalez, Robert Haynes, Ion Grimm, Ed Clore, Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Fank Rodriguez, and at least one more. But again, sometimes the Facebooks don't quite cooperate and they don't show us the latest bit of it here. So again, we haven't banned anyone. So if Steve Ivey is still anywhere out there in cyberspace, not trying to do anything to you, just sometimes the tubes don't act correctly. In any case, again, if you want to call in during the show, that number to do so is 915-544-587-654-KTSM. So we've had a bit of a soggy time around the borderland lately. I mean, this kind of started yesterday, and our parking lot is mildly a swimming pool that I would not want to go anywhere near or dive into right now. Kind of one of those weird depressions into it. And of course, so flooding and just water control has been more than a bit of an issue in a lot of ways. Of course, when it comes to dumping and those related things, making sure that the water relief passageways, arroyos and such, are able to be utilized is very important, because if they get clogged, that's when backup flooding occurs. But a lot of movement actually going on this week, going on with potential for future county projects to deal with flood mitigation. Specifically announced today, El Paso County to receive $4.6 million for flood mitigation project, as announced by as reported on by our news partners over there at KFOX 14. Specifically, the Texas Water Development Board has approved that amount. Again, $4,650,500 the El Paso County Board used for flood mitigation project in Socorro and Horizon City. I feel like that flooding in those areas, I've been out there a couple of times in my case, and other outskirts just of, the region and the undeveloped areas often facing a lot of that, because there's remember actually sitting in on a commissioner's court meetings, probably better part of a decade ago at this point, talking about the nature of the lower valley and how essentially it being the valley and the river valley, it's one of the lowest points of the area. And essentially the description from a representative from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at that point in time, essentially putting it that it's like a bathtub that doesn't really have a drain in those parts of the area. So glad to see there is some focus on fixing that, even though it'll probably take years to do so. And whether that funding amount will actually be enough is a further question I have, but also even more focus on that going on a little bit earlier this week. El Paso Water bringing along the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, hosting a public meeting yesterday to address what can be done about flooding and debris issues in central El Paso. Because, yeah, there's more than a little bit of it. Thankfully, I haven't had many issues in my neck of the woods lately. Again, knock on wood. Though I have this sneaking suspicion there may be a leak somewhere on my roof that I'm going to have to delve up into the crawl space for. I mean, we're dealing with water. That's one of those things I've been talking about, needing to, regardless of what the considerations are for it, make sure that we are ready to be able to handle it, because if extreme weather happens, again, for regardless of the reason involved in it, we need to make sure that we're prepared, because I still remember Storm 2006 happened to be up in the Gila River area, actually doing a 50-mile hike with my Boy Scout troop at the time, and we got slammed with it up there. What was a small creek that usually was pretty simple to cross ended up being, and I realized in retrospect this person probably shouldn't have tried to cross at that point in time, waist deep and raging. The fact that we didn't lose anyone to the waters is kind of a miracle. But we came back and saw all of the devastation that happened around town, including affecting my Equal Service project at the time. The site we were going to be working on was washed away by that. And of course, the more notable things that happened with the Arroyos or under what was the KFC at that point. I think it's the chicken place again now, and the Blockbuster over there near Thunderbird and Mesa. Yeah, it was a bit of a problem there. And so, of course, making sure we deal with that is important going forward. And so very much in favor of there being more discussion and focus on it. Otherwise, it's, well, we're going to keep having these issues. Preparedness, that's a preparedness worth a pound of cure. But it's still going to be at least a couple more years of research going on to some of these solutions. And one of the major issues that faces Central El Paso specifically is, ironically enough, I-10 itself. Not necessarily because of any impediment or bad way I-10 was designed, but the fact that, particularly when it's not some of the raised roadways, it's essentially kind of a dam. It doesn't allow water to move through that much. That's been one of the major projects that El Paso Water has been dealing with. If you look towards the neighborhood that used to exist near what we now have, Texas Tech, Health Sciences Center, and University Medical Center, the whole medical center of the Americas area, right next to the highway, there used to be, again, not too far from like Lincoln Park area and those underpasses, used to be a whole neighborhood there that had some serious flooding back in 2006 and is now a couple of soccer fields and drainage areas. And even closer next to the, I still think of it as, this dates me, I know, the Pat Goff warehouse, but it hasn't been that for probably better part of decades now. Not too far from like Piedras and Copia, they've got all of these huge reservoirs on either side to allow things to be pumped one way or the other. So that is definitely needing to be dealt with. Otherwise, we're going to keep being inundated in a variety of ways. So excited to see, excited may not be the totally right word, but interested to see what might be the outcome of these. And as development continues, particularly as we keep stretching now further east and now to the northwest, still getting used to that phrase, lack of consideration for these is not going to work out well for us. So a lot more comments and other commentary about other commentators coming in. Yeah, RJ pointing out, home ownership, my new part-time job. I just found the crawl space. Access way was put up in a closet that I knew there was one. I'd been told there was one, but I had not found it until I was trying to trace down what I thought was a drip, but it may have been just a kind of one of those repetitive noises. Almost thought it was something tapping on a window. Any case, I've got to take that next break now. Coming out of this break, squeezing what we can towards the end of the show. We will take a call or two. I'm wondering if we're having issues with the phone lines there, because we've had a few people come up but then drop off. In any case, we'll take one more shot at it after this break. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Slow traffic on the I-10 westbound from Hawkins past the 54 Patriot to Copia Street. 12-minute delays. I-10 eastbound between Artcraft and Patriot. It's an 8-minute delay. Police trying to clear an accident South Desert Boulevard at Thorn. Still some slowing in that area. An injury accident Viscount at Hawkins. And a crash just reported towards downtown Stanton at Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Recycle your old technology free during Staples Free Tech Take Back. Items like old modems, mice, and mobile phones or cables, calculators, and camcorders. Staples Rewards members get $5 back in rewards. Exclusions apply. Limit 1 reward per month. Visit staples.com/recycling. Recycle at Staples.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Annual enrollment is from October 15th to December 7th. This is the time to select a Medicare Advantage plan and start enjoying great benefits. Part C plans can help you add vision, dental, hearing, prescriptions, gym membership, and some plans can even help reduce the cost of Part B. If you are new to Medicare or just need to renew, Medicare Prepare is here to help. Visit them at 10295 North Loop Drive or call Medicare Prepare at 915-626-5113. In-home appointments available.
And Doug. Hey, listener. Welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it.
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gotta fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Is there a calculator that can't compute in your kitchen drawer? Recycle it at Staples. A shredder that won't shred under your bed? Or a collection of cables cluttering up your closet? Recycle them now at Staples. With Staples Free Tech Take Back, we'll recycle your old tech free. Plus, rewards members get $5 back in rewards. So if you have modems, mice, and mobile phones making a mess of your home, recycle them now at Staples. Limit 1 reward per month. Redeemable in store only. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/recycling for details.
No Hollywood release can match it.
It's worth the wait. Who complains?
No television drama can equal it.
That was the scariest episode of your show.
And nothing else comes close to the drama.
This is unbelievable.
And you know what? Quite frankly, this scares people.
Join the conversation. We have seen this movie before. We know that it doesn't end well.
Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Because everyone deserves excellent medical care, El Paso has its own free community medical clinic. RotoCare is a free walk-in clinic located at 301 South Schutz Drive and is devoted to improving the health of all El Pasoans, including those without insurance or legal documentation. RotoCare is open most Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, call 790-0700. RotoCare, because everyone deserves excellent medical care.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult.
This is dangerous. Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of things that we have been getting into here, and will, of course, continue to do so. Of course, election season is well and truly upon us, and we're wrangling, near as I can count, 50 or now 49 technically candidates that are we're at least going to make our level best try getting at onto the program, we'll definitely be talking about the races because we've definitely got 17 city council races. That on its own is going to be a little bit nuts. And then we've got, again, the 6 candidates for congressional seats, handful there for county commissioners, a couple of state house seats, and got at least one email about a debate that'll be going on the New Mexico side of things in terms of a state house there as well. Be following up with y'all, don't worry. But it's going to be quite the complicated election season and the handicapping and part of it. Of course, your last day to register to vote is next Tuesday. So if you aren't, and I have no reasonable way to actually check this or not, just know I'll be very disappointed into you if you are eligible to vote here in El Paso or wherever you're listening and don't do so. So again, this is the date for Texas. Texas, October 11th, next Tuesday, the last day to register to vote. Again, votetexas.gov, the place to find all those details and information. And y'all better do it. I mean, seriously, being able to actually take part in our election process, as much griping as there have been. And there are some, including, beyond just even the candidates. We'll keep, of course, focusing on some of these bond elections as well, with more than $500 million, depending on where you live, on the ballot in a variety of different ways. I know Las Cruces has a bond. I think Sunland Park does. Of course, City of El Paso has its own series. Cañutillo, I think Isleta or Sanelli does as well. Those independent school districts I'm referring to there. So there's a lot to be paid attention to. So that's why we will, of course, continue up our focus on it and keep doing that. One last thing I wanted to mention as some are discussing, Ida Beza Gardner mentioning, yes, we'll be following up with you as well, the Justice of the Peace races. That's unfortunately outside of what you're involved in there. One of the ones that has some more of the pass-through type elections. And what I mean there is that candidates declared elected, a lot of them, we got just the precinct 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 place 1 and 2. So that's just, not that I'm saying that someone isn't able to hold the position. It's just disappointing is what I keep coming down to. So congrats to those that have already been through, and got to wonder if any opposition had happened, how that race would have turned out here. But yes, we will be talking. So correct me if I'm wrong. That might be the only competitive Justice of the Peace race there, precinct number 7. In fact, yes, I am aware. So we'll be talking about that one further. Of course, Ida Beza Gardner, commenter, but also running for that one. And then Humberto Beto Enriquez. Definitely been seeing those signs up and around, particularly on the west side of town. So we'll be focused more on that, as well as more commenters keeping on the price amounts and the issues going on with that. Specifically, Kathy Codry saying 35 of my grocery pickup order items were out of stock, 3 items available, saying something going on. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but this is kind of a par for the course recently is the way I see it. Because, I've been saying this for a minute, if you want to have something, want to have it on hand, you bet your butt I've got my Taki storage. Anytime it gets low, I get a little bit antsy. It's not really that much of a critical deal, but if you've got critical things that you need in your life and to keep a hold of, just pick a subject, pick an area of stuff that's been needing to be bought over the last couple of years at this point, and there's probably been an issue with it. Some of the more major and eye-catching ones have been things like baby formula, cans at a certain point as well, maybe not as quite as critical, but there was concerns about those being able to, any kind of canned good, or specifically, soda cans, beer cans, drink cans in general, they supply being low of that. So we're still seeing this, regardless of any other political implications, of which there are plenty, don't get me wrong, we're still seeing a lot of aftershocks of the supply chain disruptions. The entire just-in-time supply model had never taken a shock to the system like this. And as events continue to move, and we're not just saying, okay, let's just get that back to normal, we continue to see things such as the disruption of further items, maybe even some plan coming out of, say, Russia and China. So it's going to get, the phrase I keep going back to because it's the accurate one, is it's going to get weirder before it gets better. If it ever really does, it'll probably just keep changing and shifting in different ways. Because another thing that often strikes me, as many times as there may be products that people would absolutely buy, the fact of the matter is if it doesn't make economic sense to produce it in the mass and the levels that it would take to get it. Why are there always different kinds of shoes, among other things, or tables? There's this one great folding table we got from, I think, Target years ago that just doesn't exist anymore. Not that it couldn't be feasibly made, but that economically feasibility, it can't be. So we probably won't see things return back 100% to normal is the point I'm getting at in terms of even supply of items. They will probably shift to other ways in which economic sense still gets made, because unfortunately in some of these cases, it's not so much a what do people need, what do they want, what can we give them? It's a, well, we've got this kind of a product to sell, how can we best make money off of it? So to RJ making a specific point saying, yeah, feminine products not good to be short of. Know what I mean, Vern? Absolutely. And Kathy Cody pointing out old school mode. Yeah, needs must in a lot of ways. One article, at least I wanted to mention before we got to the end of the show, I realized I've skipped over it entirely, that Ted Cruz, of course, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, both, of course, Republicans, have sent a letter to the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, accusing him of, quote, gross dereliction of duty. And I'm sure that'll be a topic we'll get into tomorrow, because we're, of course, at the end of the program here today, but tomorrow, well, that's when we dedicate it all to the calls. Free for All Friday is what we call it and what we will do. And so we'll definitely be delving into all these issues and a whole lot more, because talking about the things here in the borderland that affect us, no one else is going to do that the way we do. But even beyond that, there's a whole lot of subjects that we don't touch on during the week. So I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, that level of involvement, that interaction is what makes this work for me. Otherwise, I'd just be pontificating in a room by myself. And I'm not interested in doing that. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't be otherwise. So we'll keep the conversation going, talk more about that. So in the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Traffic still slow westbound I-10 from Hawkins to past the 54 Patriot with 8-minute delays. I-10 eastbound Artcraft to the Patriot, it's a 5-minute delay. Joe Battle southbound at Edgemere, there's a car stopped in the right lane, stay to the left. And an injury accident, Schuster Avenue west of North Mesa at Hawthorne Street. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Have you thought about dental implants? Has someone told you that dental implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per tooth? Please do not pay that much money. Instead, go to 1995implants.com, the El Paso dental office where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown. Plus, we offer a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. At 1995implants.com, dental implants are very affordable. So get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, and loose, old, wobbly dentures, and get the amazing new smile that you've been wanting. 1995implants.com is conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, please see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station. Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690 KTSM, an iHeart radio station. News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Police are reporting 2 people are dead and 6 more are injured after a stabbing attack on the Las Vegas Strip.
Our officers immediately responded, and with the help of security partners, were able to take the suspect into custody very quickly. And we were also able to start rendering aid to the multiple victims.
The suspect has been taken into custody outside of the Venetian after he began attacking people with a large kitchen knife. Police say the scene is now under control and things appear safe, but the investigation is still ongoing. An historic SpaceX mission carrying 5 astronauts is now docked at the International Space Station. The Crew 5 mission launched yesterday atop a Falcon 9 rocket from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The astronauts will move aboard the ISS for a 5-month stay. The launch is the first involving a Native American woman, NASA's Nicole Mann. People convicted of simple possession of marijuana are being pardoned by President Biden. The president's action applies to everybody who has a conviction on that charge at the federal level. Biden wants governors to take the same action at the state level. A pre-trial motions hearing is setting the stage for the state trial of 2 former Minneapolis police officers convicted of violating George Floyd's civil rights. Lisa Taylor has more.
This morning,